not because of me.
Okay, I think we're live. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I guess we missed the intro. We've been having a few technical difficulties. It might be said that there are some government agents who are trying to mess with us. But then again, I got the blue bar of death yesterday, so I figure maybe there's one in there who likes me now. And so I have this message for all government agents who might be listening to the whole agenda on Friday, June 12th. If you listen to this show, you're going to learn stuff your bosses never, ever are going to tell you. So if you help us out, you're going to learn something. Good evening to my producer, Swami.
Namaste and blessings. We welcome everyone with great love and great respect from the heart of all.
Yes, sir, Swami Shiva. And this is Gordon James Gianninoto. And I've got to say that this is listener-supported radio, and you have to make a donation. Really, I don't know what excuse you give yourself for not making a donation, but this is the place, this is the time. Go to freedomslips.com or Freedom Slips, whichever you prefer, and scroll down about a third of the way, and you can make a donation on the right-hand side through PayPal, MasterCard or Visa, debit or credit, or you can scroll all the way to the bottom and send a nice fat check to the owner's home address. So that can make a lot of sense too, because you can also write several pages of comments and put it in there. And God knows we all like to know what you're thinking, because there's no other way for us to know. You either call in or you don't call in, but we don't really get a lot of feedback, do we, Swami?
Not directly, no.
No. So anyway, that would be the good thing to do. And then if you donate $50, you get a thumb drive with 900 survival documents, which is a beautiful present. And God knows, as I've said before, you're going to need it. And then if you donate $100, you get 35,000 non-GMO seeds in a freezer pack. And you also get a DVD with the 900 survival documents. So there now, with that, you can actually feed your family and your town in the future. As long as somebody who knows gardening, you know, people say, oh, gardening is simple, just go do it. Well, I've seen that there are some people that they just are magic with flowers. They couldn't grow vegetables to save their lives. I've seen other people that can't grow anything, and I see other people that can just walk outside and plant anything, like me or Janet, my wife, and it grows, because we just I don't know what there is going on there. There's some connection to it that we have. But anyway, you need to practice, because after this show tonight, we have breaking news, something that has never happened before. There are all kinds of signs of the apocalypse, signs of Planet X, and there is something that happened this week that has never happened before. This is a brand new one, and it shows that Planet X is on its way and getting closer. So, but first I have to thank Nancy Leader. You know, I have a nice relationship with her, and I speak to her several times a week, and it's all the information that I have would not be possible without her and the discussions that I have. And even Swami has started to going to poleshift.ning.com to see what questions she's taken from the public and decided to answer. Right, Swami?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And it's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. I got to admit, there's far more of what is being discussed on this topic lines up with things this Swami has intuitively been clued into but didn't have detail about. So now this sharpens the point on the understanding that had been coming through, you know, rather naturally due to the meditative practices and things. But anyway, yes, please proceed with Nancy.
The process is that Nancy takes questions and she does not accept them all. A lot of questions are repeats, and she will not take peats and repeats, because you should be searching Zeta Talk to see if it's already been asked. They have a really great search engine. But then after she takes the question and answers it, it stays for a while on poleshift.ning.com, N-I-N-G, Ning. You can start your own Ning You can have members, and you can have paid members if you want. It costs a little bit of money to start a Ning, but you could have swami.ning.com if you wanted Swami. So that's how that works. So it's posted on poleshift.ning.com, and from there it goes to zetatalk.com. So, and poor Nancy maintains all the mirror sites around the world in all the languages, and answers all the questions and works with her moderators, has group meetings with her moderators at least once a week, sometimes more, and reads unbelievable amounts of emails, most of which she deletes because the people are idiots. Sorry to say that. But anyway, she's a wonderful woman. And I don't know that she listens to these shows because she goes to bed at 4 in the afternoon. So it's not likely, but we are posting them on YouTube now, thanks to my producer. He's doing a wonderful job. And that list of shows that you can listen to from the whole agenda on Revolution Radio is growing every day. So, every week. So that's a wonderful thing. But I just wanted to say at the beginning that a lot of this information that you're getting, hot breaking news, bombshell, is right from Nancy. So I want to thank her, and I'm sure that some of you would. Now, people say they don't like Nancy because they used to read about her on Wikipedia, and it said she had a cult, she was a hoax. She said Planet X was going to crash into the Earth and that she's an idiot, and none of that is true.
Oh, and there was another thing that I've seen that, some people might have seen something about this and then decided to turn away, that she had advised people to kill their pets. That's something that's been scurrilous.
Yeah, and it's not that at all. First of all, she had an inbred dog that was biting people, and when Planet X came around the sun in 2003, she said that pole shift could happen at any time. Well, it didn't happen, but the Zetas later said that they emphasized it in such a way that George Bush would go into Iraq sooner rather than later and expose all of his evil plans. So I don't know what the ins and the outs of that are, but she loves animals. Frequently when I'm talking to her, she's petting a cat or whatever. So, and you have to think, look, if you don't have any food for yourself, how are you going to feed a dog? Now, I'm not saying you should go out and kill them today or anything, but don't be surprised if somebody else wants to eat your pets. So, and I know that's an ugly thought. I know you won't be happy thinking about that, but it's something we all have to face. I have 5 cats. I hope nobody ever eats them because I love them dearly. Now, on a not much happier topic, this week, June 9th, was the 24th anniversary of our first flying saucer together. Now, I've told you how we met. I asked the ETs to find someone, and I was very specific in what I wanted. And without consciously thinking about me, we ran into each other, and the next day I asked her to move in with me, and that was 25 years ago. That was October 1990. So in June of 1991, she was having a dream. We were asleep in bed, and it was 4 in the morning in June, which is, the sun is going to rise soon. So there's a little brightness in the sky, not much. And she was having a dream that we were on a flying saucer, and the Zetas were there, and there were 3 very tall hooded beings. And I was having a technical discussion with them, which I've since learned they're usually the most intelligent and the most technical. And I have a scientific technical side to me. So that's undoubtedly what was happening. And she interrupted and said, listen, I don't want to just see you in my dreams out of body. I would like to see you physically. Can you do something about that? And instantly she woke up and she thought, oh, it's almost morning. She went downstairs to make some coffee. And the door to the porch that was in the kitchen, the screen door was closed, but the inner door was open, and so it was a little cool in the kitchen. She went to close it, and she looked out. We had a 15-foot high maple tree, and there above the maple tree was a 30-foot nickel-colored disc with a dome on top of it, ionizing the air around it orange and around the dome red, the most beautiful orange and red you've ever seen. So she went running. She goes, wait right there. She was running back inside and goes to wake me up. And I sit up immediately like I had been awake or I had just come back from being on a saucer. And we went downstairs And we went outside in the yard and we stood 50 feet from it, and it was gently rocking, just like maybe if you had a canoe at anchor in a lake with a bit of a windy chop. And it just sort of wobbled there totally silently, giving off this unbelievably awesome spiritual feeling of unconditional love. And we stood there together, arm in arm, looking up, and it was only, it was maybe 25 feet off the ground, 50 feet from us. And we stood there, and we never thought of going to get a camera or anything like that, because we knew they were showing us us together. I guess, it wasn't clear right then, but it's become clear to show us that we should, we could have confidence that this is a real thing and that we can go around talking about it, and we should. And so it was incredibly spiritual experience. There was nothing frightening about it, not even in the slightest. And then it slowly, and this is a sleeping fishing village where we used to live, and about 4:30, it slowly sashayed off to the west over all these trees and houses where fishermen were waking up to go lobstering, and disappeared. And that was our 24th anniversary of that was this last Tuesday. So
happy anniversary!
Thank you, darling. Thank you. So I had to mention that because it was really, a big thing. Now, I have some minor news to mention. The Boeing just showed off its new 787 Dreamliner. You probably saw it on the news if you watch the news. It climbs straight up off the runway. Well, guess what? There's only one other commercial jet that does that, and that's the Hercules C-130, the 4-engine turboprop. That can fly straight up, and fighter jets, of course. But the odds that a commercial jetliner could fly straight up and what we're talking about here is a huge thrust to weight ratio. So I don't suppose it can fly absolutely straight up if it's loaded with passengers, but I have no idea. It's a beautiful airplane. They were demonstrating that, getting ready for the Paris Air Show. So let's all wish them luck, because there's so much better plane than Airbus. If you have a choice of which plane to board, make sure it is a Boeing. Airbuses are all fly-by-wire, computer-controlled. The computer goes out. That's it. That's all there is to it. But on a Boeing, the pilot can turn the computers off and use hand controls. So, there's something to be said for that. Let's see what I want to discuss here again. Okay. Before the show, Swami and I were discussing the price of drugs. And I saw a news article where a woman, she's got complete coverage and for drug coverage, and her doctor prescribed resveratrol. Is that correct, Swami? Resveratrol?
Resveratrol.
Resveratrol.
Right.
Why? That's like if I said manhandle and my father would go, no, it sounds better say manhandle.
Something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, she even though it's covered, she went through her bills and she realized that CVS Pharmacy charged her insurance company $44,495, I think it was, for like a 2-month supply of resveratrol.
You want to repeat that number again so people absorb this?
44,000. Now, this is something that's available freely in red wine and a million other things. Blueberries, okay. $44,000, $44,495. CVS had billed her insurance company. So she called them up and they go, well, the insurance company gives us a code and we enter the code and that's the price for that code. And we entered it and they paid it. Now, that made the national news because she immediately called up her news station and they went there and they said, oh, yeah, that's the code. That's the price. And then they sent an undercover person in with a hidden camera and said, I'd like a 2-month supply of resveratrol. And it was under $150. So this is just way out of hand. In the last year, some generic drugs have increased in price almost 7,000%. So, there's not much I can do about it, but I can tell you what's going on. So really, maybe you want to start checking some of your bills and see if there's any funny business going on. But you know, they say the doctors were the hospitals require contracts for the doctors, and they're owned by the same people that own the insurance companies, who also own the pharmaceutical companies. So basically, it's you, the public, paying for this. Okay. There's a new show on the History Channel, which some of you might be interested in. I don't know where they get the ideas. Well, I do know where they get the ideas for these things. They have offered 10 men to go alone into the wilderness. Now, to me, it looks like maybe Alaska or British Columbia. But wherever they are, there are bears, coyotes, wolves, and cougars, mountain lions. And they're allowed to bring 10 items each with them, and they are given they stay as long as they can, and the last one to give up, the last one who beats all the others, I'm sure right at the beginning some of them are going to drop out like flies. There's no camera crew filming them. They bring their own cameras. Maybe that crew flies in every other day to recharge the batteries. I don't know what they do. But anyway, whoever lasts the longest gets $500,000, $500,000. So that's going to be on the History Channel on Thursday nights. I know some of you don't like TV. I happen to love TV, so that's what's going on with that. Now, I had mentioned Ceres, and I had the amateur astronomer Conrad on before, and NASA said, oh, we're just trying to get closer to it. We're out using an ion propulsion, and it's taking forever. But as you know, I said that there are all kinds of lit buildings on the surface of the asteroid Ceres, which is on the other side of Mars. It's in the asteroid belt. And finally, NASA released a video taken from, and it's a low quality. It's really pathetic what they're doing. I have a better digital camera in my cell phone, I guess, than they do on the satellite, which you know that can't be true. They showed it a time action, like a GIF, showing Ceres rotating. And although they don't describe what these bright things are, you can plainly see them in the video. And of course, when Conrad was on, he described how they appear to be very, very large buildings, fully lit. And our supposition is that it's selfish ETs. That's their base. We also have a spacecraft going to Pluto. We have no such photographs of anything from Pluto yet. But all of my sources tell me that Pluto is an unselfish ET base. So hopefully we'll see some of this. And when Conrad said he can't draw a conclusion yet, but when he sees something that's worth discussing, he would love to come back on the show, and I will have him. So there's no question about that. Now, Bilderberg is meeting this week, and Janet went online and read me the agenda, and I go, well, that's not the agenda. It was global warming, fossil fuels, just ridiculous. And I was talking to Nancy about that, and I said, their agenda has to be Planet X, Planet X, Planet X. So she took that as a question, some other people asked also. She took that as a question and answered it. And you're going to love what there was. Not only was Planet X high on the agenda, but I mean, just hold on to something when I tell you this, because it's so hard to believe what they're up to. But, they're all selfish billionaires. What do they care about you? They're realizing that the economy is probably going to crash pretty soon. So part of their just secret discussions, and this is courtesy of the Zetas, answering the question to Nancy Leader, part of their discussion is to offer people food to stay on their jobs, because they won't be able to offer them money. So, I mean, can you believe it? Like, you're really going to say, oh, yeah, I'd love to go back to my job and for some bread and cheese. Yeah, that sounds like
ready to throw their dogs some kibbles and bits. Is that it?
Yeah. Can you believe it? Can you believe what these people are?
They think.
we can't tell you where to go for your own safety. We can't tell you what's going to happen or what's going to cause what's happening. We can't do that. But if the economy does crash, we all want you to keep your nose to the grindstone. And of course, geez, isn't that too bad? You won't have any money to make payments on your credit card. We'll have to figure out something. But in the meantime, we want you to keep showing up at the job, and maybe we'll give you some bologna sandwiches and a can of Spam to take home for dinner.
And keep guarding our properties and our wealth.
Exactly. So that just blew my mind. I mean, it's just so unreal. And of course, none of them can agree on what they would do with each other's populations. So that's pretty much, going by. And now, in 2005, Catholic Truth, a publisher in London, which you would think, well, this is just somebody who wants to write about the truth of the Catholic Church. Actually, this is an arm of the Vatican. They published a book where Vatican astronomers said, of course, there's extraterrestrials all over the universe, and they all have souls, and they're all part of God. And if they come here, we would welcome them. Now, in this discussion that I had this week, there was no mention of as long as they're a baptized Catholic. But I had heard that back in 2005, 6, or 7, that the Pope was, and don't forget this, this was the Pope before the Nazi Pope, that they were willing to accept any extraterrestrials as long as they were willing to be baptized Catholic. So you can imagine how many want to come here and introduce themselves in order to be baptized in the Catholic Church. Anyway, then the Nazi Pope came in, Pope Benedict, and he definitely, they had lots of meetings in the smoke-filled back rooms of the Vatican, and they decided they did not want anyone to know about extraterrestrials because they want people to still keep their noses to the grindstone and donate tons of money to the Catholic Church. So they didn't want anybody to know about extraterrestrials. God knows what would happen if everybody knew. So they withdrew this book. And this book just reappeared. It was reissued. And you can buy it from Catholic Truth in London. I don't know the name of it, but it's something about the astronomers of the Vatican, which is the only church on earth that I know of, which has a set of observatories, astronomical observatories around the world. So they've been quite interested in the ETs and when they're coming.
Most prominently featured is on Mount Graham in Arizona, the Lucifer system. That's what it's called, Lucifer, which is infrared. And they are watching something approaching in the infrared spectrum. And that much is public knowledge. Tom Horn does a lot of work on that. And as a matter of fact, Tom Horn and Chris Putnam are doing a series right now called Return of the Immortals, and interviewing Native American medicine men, getting the ancient stories from them about the last pole shift and what occurred then and how they were assisted, and talking to the folks at the Mount Graham Observatories. Yeah.
Well, and that's in spite of the fact that anyone can go to this Italian webcam and see pictures taken by the webcam practically every day of Planet X near the sun. So you don't need an observatory. I tell people, please take your digital camera and go out and take a picture of the sun tomorrow. And the next time there's a clear sky, try and get the sunrise, try and get the sunset, because the extra atmosphere filters the light and makes it a little more visible. But you can even get pictures in the middle of the day. Plenty of pictures have been taken. And what you get is something like a caterpillar or a glowing area at 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, on a clock face, the lower right, attached to the sun. And that is not normal. You don't look at the sun because that will blind you. It'll burn your retina. It's too close to the sun to try and look at it yourself. But your camera takes great pictures, and you can look at the pictures and you can see that there's something next to the sun. Now, if you're lucky at sunrise and sunset, you will get a picture of two suns. You'll have the sun, which is rather large, and then it'll be like what would be a like okay, an orange with a dime next to it. The orange is the sun, and the dime is planet X. That's the scale, and it's there. You know, you don't need an observatory. Now the thing is I've said before, and the Zetas have said this: when the sun gets far enough from planet X, planet X gets far enough from the sun to see it in the sky separate without burning your eyes, and everyone around the world can look up and go, oh my God, what's that? At that point, we've got 49 days toward pole shift. So, you know, it's pretty interesting. Now, I was discussing with Nancy about the Council of Worlds and the fact that I had said that we're all pretty much doomed if all the nuclear reactors are all on fault lines around the Earth, and nuclear energy it gets on the loose, which undoubtedly would. Look, if all the plates, there's going to be massive 9 and 10 quakes everywhere. It's going to shatter the nuclear reactors. Radiation is going to spread everywhere. The Council of Worlds, which is the unselfish extraterrestrials, of which there are 1,000 races here from all over the universe, to be here to see Earth graduate its first class. About a third of the Earth is going to be ready for the fourth dimension, and they've been people. Star children have been born. Reincarnated souls have been contacted. Even people who are in their first lifetime have been contacted. So the reason for that is they're trying to slant the whole operation for success. Well, if the nuclear reactors break apart and radiation spreads everywhere, then I guess there wouldn't be much success because everyone would die. So if you're trying to have a graduation of a live planet, I would think the Council of Worlds ought to do something about that. Now, the interesting thing about the Council of Worlds is that you have to make a call. When you make a call to the Council of Worlds, if enough people ask for it, they can take action without accumulating bad karma or interfering with free will. Now, when I had my waking vision of pole shift in 1973, I saw that World War III set off the Earth changes, and I wasn't sure what happened. But when I had my waking vision in 1988, I plainly saw everywhere flying saucers just sitting up in the sky. You couldn't look in any direction without seeing flying saucers sitting there. And the reason why they're not doing that is because there is what is called the element of doubt. Now, believe it or not, in a free will planet where everyone can be selfish or unselfish, you have to protect the skeptics and the naysayers. I can understand why, because they have to reach the conclusions at their own speed. But on the other hand, we're in an emergency here. And we need really to get past this disclosure, non-disclosure issue. And I personally don't care whether the skeptics have a shocking moment. I don't know. Would you care, Swami?
Well, I can see where it would be tremendously difficult, you know, the cognitive dissonance when they have to come to the realization that everything they thought they knew was incorrect. You know?
Well, Nancy, I asked Nancy, I said, what if we do a call on my show with everybody participating to the Council of Worlds asking that the element of doubt be removed? And that would allow saucers to start appearing everywhere. Without this thing where half the people go, oh, that was swamp gas. People were chasing Venus.
Right.
It was the conjunction of Venus and Saturn. That's what it was. No. To the point where every single person that looks at it goes, wow, there's flying saucers everywhere. So what I'd like to do is I would like to, and then I'd like to continue this on other shows, like if other people have other things that we think we ought to ask for. Now, the first thing is that the Council of Worlds says that enough people on Earth have made a call to prevent World War III with nukes, nuclear World War III, that they have agreed to neutralize all nuclear weapons. And they say that there's very few left in the hands of the Russians and the Americans, but it's possible that somebody could make a dirty bomb or steal one of the ones that still work and set it off. but it's not going to be World War III. They've already taken care of that. And they've demonstrated to the military. They've opened up a nuclear warhead, and I don't know if they mixed some chemical or waved their hand or waved a magic wand, whatever they did. They changed the half-life from hundreds of thousands of years to hundreds of thousands of a second. And all of a sudden, the nuclear material was not radioactive at all. So therefore, all they had was a bomb with some lead in it. What do you think of that idea? We make a call that all nuclear reactors and nuclear energy, the mess that would happen at pole shift, be cleaned up by the ETs. What do you think of that idea?
I think that is an absolutely unselfish, of service to all request.
Okay, and then
it will be responded to, or it will not.
And then how do you think? What do you think of the idea of removing the element of doubt? So at least that issue is cleared up right away.
If that's allowable, then so be it.
Oh, it's allowable. All it takes is a certain number of people on Earth to ask for it. So I'm going to try and speak this slowly, and everyone who's interested can repeat after me. Okay?
Very well.
This is what I'm going to do. Using the highest forms of light and love, I call upon the Council of Worlds to remove all nuclear pollution at pole shift to save the planet. And we also ask that the element of doubt be removed so that everyone knows there are flying saucers, and they'll be able to sit in the sky harmlessly, awe-inspiringly, and let everybody know that there are people from all over the universe interested in what's happening now. With that, we thank you, Council of Worlds, and we hope that you hear our call, and that this call, when it's put on YouTube and other people are watching it, that they do the same thing. They call upon the Council of Worlds to remove all nuclear pollution as it occurs, and to remove the element of doubt and allow flying saucers to be seen by everybody. So, think that was good enough, Swami?
Om Namo Narayana. Yes.
Okay. Now, in the future, I plan to, and I will take suggestions from anybody about what other things we can make a call for, because we can make a call for anything that's good. So why not? When we do that and enough people want it, then the Council of Worlds can grant it without any bad karma for them. They're not interfering. This is what we want.
Right.
So,
area code 631. You are in the Whole Agenda Sandbox. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Area code 631. Are you with us?
Yes.
Well, you're on the air live.
Hello, from New York.
Who's this?
It's Sirva from New York.
Welcome.
Thank
Your
you.
name is Beth? Is Beth?
No, it's Sirva. Sirve. Sirva.
Huh. Okay, well, I believe you. I'm not sure I could spell it or pronounce it, but welcome. Do you have a question?
Welcome. Thank you.
Or a comment? Go right ahead. Spit it out, darling.
Oh, I just called in. Actually, I couldn't hear the show. I know it's going to be about the border.
No, you've got the wrong station. You've got the wrong studio.
Okay.
The Studio B is running a rerun right now, so you won't be able to get in. There's no live show there. It's a repeat. And our topic doesn't have anything to do with that.
Okay. Anyway, all the blessings. All the
Thank you.
blessings.
Thank you. Okay, now, good night. Now back to, we started a remote viewing. I won't call it a contest because there's no prize, but it is a remote viewing experiment, and I haven't mentioned it in 2 weeks, and that's my fault. I apologize, but we're still running it until Friday, July 3rd. And I told you there's something on a bookcase that's the same height as the windowsill in the western window upstairs in my house. Now, one person called in and said it was crystals, and I thought, no, there's no crystals there. But wouldn't you know it, when I had Janet put this object in the window, she also took some crystals out of the window in her bedroom and moved them over there. So yes, there were crystals there. So that person, whose name I forget, I apologize deeply, that person was absolutely correct. But that's not what I'm talking about. Now, so far we've had one guest that was not, let's say, you know how they say if you're getting close you get hot, and then if you get closer you get hotter, and if you get further away from what it is you get colder. Well, this is a warm guess that it was a ceramic clown. So it's not a ceramic clown, but it's a warm guess. So anyone who would like to call in, if you give the call-in numbers or the contact information, Swami, they can do that. Of course, if you're on the chat, you can do that as well. Well, okay, I think Swami went on vacation. Okay, well, when he comes back, we'll ask him.
Oh, you're looking for the phone number?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to step away from the mic for a second.
That's okay.
If you would like to join in the sandbox, we'll make sure the big cats don't cover you up. Just call 347-688-2902. That's area code 347-688-2902. Or you can Skype us at Freedom Screen. All one word. Freedom Screen. And you can join in with Jordan James Gianninoto. Back to you.
Okay. We're gradually making our way through this list of things before the really big news. So, it's really big. I mean, it is really big, never been seen before, proves Planet X is here, this is real, but I've got a few things to mention first. And one of them is, you thought Planet X was moving the tectonic plates and causing earthquakes. Well, you aren't in Malaysia, obviously, because the last big quake they had was in a mountain village, and it killed a teacher and 12 students who were on a field trip to this village. It's a snowy mountain. It's a remote village. The destruction that I saw on TV was incredible. The highways were just sunken in and tilted and cracked, and oh my God, I couldn't believe that only 16 people died. Now, 13 of them were on the ground, the teacher and the school teacher and the school students. 3 were thrown off the mountain they were climbing, and I believe, as I recall, that was June 4th. Now, the problem is that on May 30th, 10 Western college students, 4 men and 6 women, climbed the mountain. Now, the mountain is Mount Kinabalu in Malaysia. And when they got to the top, it was sunny, and so, being college students, they took off all their clothes. Yes, they stripped. And they even took selfies of each other. There were other climbers up there. I guess they had them take some pictures of the group. So there are photographs showing the 10 of them. The picture, you can read about this in the UK Daily Mirror. I think you've heard of the Mirror. Not Daily Mirror, the UK Mirror. But anyway, the Malaysian government took a little while to find out about this, and when they did, 6 of them had already left. But there was a married couple from England, a single woman from England named Heather, Eleanor, I forget her name, Eleanor, I know it was, Eleanor Hawkins, I think, and a single man. And they were at the airport about to transfer from that small village to Kuala Lumpur and then go back to Europe. But luckily, the native police in that district nabbed them and charged them with angering God. Oh, yes. And the prosecutor said, people may laugh at this, but these are our customs, and that is where God comes to earth. And anyone that would go up there and strip has angered God. And so they arrested them. They're holding them without bail because, after all, they might just go home. So they're holding him in prison in this village at the base of Mount Kinabalu, and they're each facing at least 3 months in prison for stripping on the mountain where God comes down. So that is what they explained very carefully. That is what caused the earthquake. So if you thought that the Malaysian government was hard at work looking for flight MH370, which my sources tell me has already been found, and they don't want to bring it up because it will show that the circuit boards were shorted out by the tail of Planet X electromagnetic storm, and so they're just going to let it sit there and corrode a bit more before they bring it up. But so, in case you've always had a lot of faith in the Malaysian government, you can continue in that track. I think that belief. So. On Hangar 1 tonight had an interesting show, and of course I'm always talking about Fridays is Ancient Aliens Day on the History Channel, and it's also the night they have the MUFON show, which is called Hangar 1.
Is that any good? I've seen promos for it, but
usually it's been really good. I gotta say that. So anyway, this is really interesting because it relates to something that is in Zeta Talk. Okay. Now, this guy was talking about how, and I didn't get the city, and I didn't get his name, but they repeat these things endlessly. So it'll probably be on next. It's probably be on later after my show, and it'll probably be on next Friday again. They always show last week's, this week's, and sometimes the week before's. But anyway, this guy was 1957. He's in a drugstore on the corner of two streets that he named. And he's in there, and he's 9 years old, and he's got a UFO magazine in his hand that was on the newsstand, and he's trying to read it and imagining how he's going to be able to buy it. And can just imagine in 1957, I know that I went to buy magazines and stuff, and I was always counting my pennies. Ooh, can I buy this one or can I buy that one? So he's standing there, and a guy from the Air Force saunters in and says, "Oh, I see you're interested in UFOs." And the kid goes, yeah, I am. And so then, strangely enough, over the next few years, he keeps running into this same military guy as an officer, like maybe lieutenant colonel or colonel, and keeps running into him. And the guy goes, "You still interested in UFOs?" "Oh, yes, I am." And so when he gets old enough, he graduates from high school, he goes to apply to the military, and they reject him for medical reasons. So he's like really bummed out. And he's home, and the phone rings, and they said, "You know, we want to retest you. Would you please come back in?" And he goes back in, and he passes. And they immediately, as soon as he's finished with basic training and stuff, they immediately take him to the sites of crashed saucers and captured ETs and ask him to telepathically tell the military what the alien is saying. Now, how did they know that he would be able to do that? How long had they been watching him? Well, I have the answer. It wasn't on the show. You will not learn it by watching the MUFON files. Nancy has said that the MJ-12, the Majestic 12, the government, secret government organization that had made contact with selfish extraterrestrials, they restricted the unselfish extraterrestrials from showing themselves openly. So now you know why we have this element of doubt problem, don't you? Because it's the selfish ETs made the deal with the government, and the aliens respect the government. The government said, no, the unselfish ones cannot just come out on the street. And why did they say that? Because the selfish ones said, as long as you keep it covered up, we'll give you technology. Most of which they never gave them. So, the MJ-12 said the unselfish ETs had to make a list of every single person they were in contact with. And I think Nancy said that up until 1982, when MJ-12 started disbanding, that they had that list. And she has seen the list, and my wife is on it. Janet Stanley, my wife, is on the list, was on the list. There is no list anymore because there were so many contacts, the list would have to fill 25 tractor trailers printed single space. So, but up until 1982, there were only 16,000 contactees of the Zetas. Now, there was no such requirement that the Pleiadians or anybody else submit names. But so he evidently, I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense, is the MJ-12 knew that this kid was on the list. He was contacted by the unselfish Zetas, and therefore he must be interested in UFOs, and he probably is going to be telepathic. And so they recruited him, and for years that's what he did until one night when he helped an alien escape. They called him and they sent a car for him, and he went to this Air Force base, or this Fort Belvoir in Virginia, I think it's called. And he went in to see this alien, and this alien was a lot taller than he was, and he looked up at him, and the alien looked down, and the alien looked at him and telepathically told him, "I'm afraid." And so he thought, what is he afraid of exactly, other than the fact he's been captured by the U.S. government, which would scare the bejesus out of anybody. He was thinking, what are you afraid of particularly? And the alien told him telepathically, "We've got an extraction plan to get me out of here, and this plan will involve everybody in this base dying unless you help me escape right now. That's the only way I can save your life and the rest of your company's life, is if you help me escape right now." So he turned to the colonel and he said, "I have to be alone with him in private. He's going to show me something, but only me, not anyone else, and everyone else has to leave the building." So they all went out the front. This guy went out the back with a bolt cutter and clipped through the chain link fence. The guards saw him doing that with the alien, the tall alien, and he hurt his hands pretty badly trying to bend the wire on the chain link fence enough so this alien could get through. And the alien did get through, went about 100 feet, and all of a sudden a beam of light shot down from the sky, and then the light went out and the alien was gone. And the colonel called him in and was going to court-martial him, and then after thinking about it for a while decided not to press any charges. And there he was on Hangar 1 tonight telling the story. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, the second thing they had was a crash in Socorro, New Mexico. Now, most people have heard of that. A lot of people have heard of Roswell, but they don't realize there were lots of other crashes. In fact, I talked to a guy who had a list of all the crashes in New Mexico, and there were 45 of them. And that was because they thought that they could have one radar station to do traffic control for the whole United States. Of course, back in 1945, they didn't have computers like they do today. So I don't know how they were going to do that, but they built this monstrous radar station, and it was sweeping around, and the amount of the microwave radiation was such that it knocked the saucers out of the sky. And this guy at the UFO conference showed me a piece of a wrecked saucer, and he said he had a list of the locations of 45 crash saucers from that period, 1945 to 1950. So anyway, this goes to the crash at Socorro. The crash killed all the aliens on board, and there were 5 of them. People rushed to see if there could be any help administered to the aliens, and 3 of the technicians who were handling the bodies immediately began bleeding from their nose and their mouth, and then died. So they took special precautions to make sure that nobody else touched the alien bodies. They handled them with, I don't know what, plastic or tar, who knows what they did. Put them in bottles, I have no idea. And they brought them to 5 different bases for autopsies by 5 different teams. And MUFON has a copy of the report at the end of the year from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio that as a result of the examination of those bodies by 2 medical examiners who were hired just for that purpose, they discovered brand new retroviruses and bacteria never seen before on Earth, which could be used as biological weapons. And the comment from the Hangar 1 MUFON show was that anything we can get This was during the Cold War. Anything we can get from the aliens, if we could weaponize it, we have and we will. So that's scary. But it just shows you that when some of these new viruses come out, like Ebola or something, maybe they've been around, that's been around for thousands of years. But any of these new ones, maybe they're just from the military's little bioweapons storehouse. What do you think, Swami?
Quite likely.
Yeah.
So, intelligence agencies have been well known to engage in such activities, and there's a lot of speculation. 1918 flu was, massive, deadly on this planet, was a creation of the military. So.
Yeah, and I mean, there are so many things, and just ridiculous. So, how are we doing for time in this hour?
We have approximately 5 minutes left till the break.
Okay, now I had mentioned, and I am going to mention again, how important your last thoughts at death are. And I am going to get back to that, but in the meantime, I did speak to Nikki Thetsy, and she agreed to be my guest next week to discuss that at length.
Excellent. Looking forward to having her on.
I have spoken to so many people who have said, wow, nobody's ever brought that up before. And they're really looking forward to this. So I will mention it a little bit in a little while, but I want to tell you what this breaking news is. And that is that earlier this week, a TV station called WQAD 8, QAD-8 TV, I guess it might be in Davenport, Iowa. They were doing their traffic report. Now, there's a bridge across the Mississippi, and that's called the Quad Cities area, which I'm not familiar with at all. And there's a large bridge over the Mississippi, and up on one of the towers of the bridge is a webcam pointed down at the roadway. And they normally go to it and say, look, the traffic is flowing normally on I-74, east or west. And oh my God, what's that white spot? And as they're looking, now this is right at sunrise, so the sun is just peeking over the eastern horizon. So it's not totally dark, but it's not totally light either. All of a sudden, this white circle moves across the Mississippi River, up onto the bridge, illuminates cars on the roadway and traffic for a little while, and then moves off the bridge and disappears. So, like, what the hell is that? Could it be the streetlights? No, the streetlights went off. Is it a helicopter? No, there's no helicopter. What is it? And they replayed it over and over again. They circled it with a yellow circle and emphasized it. And they finally, after spending an inordinate amount of time on this subject, what is this white circle of light illuminating the river and the bridge and the cars, and then moving on? What is that? Is it a UFO? No, it's not solid. It's just an area of brightness where you can see the road and the cars. So
I've just added the link for anyone with access in the chat room. I've just put in the link to the video that Gordon is discussing.
Okay, now going back to the webcam in Italy that is catching most days, but not every day, but when it's clear, is capturing Planet X next to the sun. And the pictures that are being shown show the sun, clouds of red dust, which are the twin-stranded tail of Planet X, reaching towards the Earth, and then white circles. And the white circles are called moon swirls. And I've explained that in these twin-stranded tail of Planet X, there are moons that are actually revolving around in a circle. They're not only turning on their own axis, but they're revolving around in a circle so fast that they are creating a tornado in the tail of Planet X. And because it's a twin-stranded tail, as the sun rises, one of the strands can actually go almost overhead. So people who go out to take a picture of the sun are going to get these white circles in the picture, and they're going to go, what the hell is that? Well, these are these vortices or vortexes or tornadoes in the tail of Planet X. They're like the eye of a hurricane. There's nothing in the center of the vortex. So therefore, if the end of the tornado points to the sun, it acts almost like a tunnel of light, like a fiber optic cable. And sunlight goes into the end of the tornado, the eye of the hurricane, and channels through and comes through, and you can take a picture of it. Well, that's what that circle was. We're going to get back to it in the second hour. Thank you. Well, welcome back. This is Gordon James Gianninoto. This is the Whole Agenda Radio Show, and my great producer, Swami, who is making it possible for these shows to be posted on my YouTube channel, Gordon James Gianninoto. So usually he's done it within 2 days of the show. That's not a guarantee, but he's doing his best. We all have lots of things going on in our lives. God knows I do. And so we're doing the best we can to make these shows available for you to listen to at any time on YouTube. Hopefully, we won't do anything that gets us banned. God knows.
We are doing the editing necessary to keep YouTube from flagging your account. They tend to flag the accounts of anyone putting stuff up from Revolution Radio when we play the promos and the music and such that comes up at the top and bottom of the hour breaks. So we edit that out and then put it up on the YouTube.
You're doing a great job, and I thank you. I really, the quality is excellent, and it's a wonderful thing. Also, there's a number that you can dial to listen. So you don't need to be near an internet provider. If you have like a smartphone like I do with unlimited calling, many times I've just dialed Studio A has a separate number, or Studio B, and the quality is incredible. And you could be anywhere, and you're just sitting there thinking, I need more information. I've got to know what's going on. And you can tune right into Revolution Radio 24 hours a day by dialing to listen. I think that's an original thing. Very, very proud of it. And I don't know how many people use it, but I've tried it myself, and the quality is just beyond excellent. So it's exciting. Now, I was saying that if you look at Planet X and the sun, you will see circles of white light. And if you go out and take pictures of the sun, you will see white circles splayed around the sun, around Planet X, in the red iron oxide tail, and you can't avoid it. But this is something new. This has never been reported. In all the times that Nibiru, Planet X, has come through the solar system, every 3,657 years, there are no ancient descriptions of it, although there are plenty of ancient descriptions of it. There's never been a mention of this. And what I'm saying is that in previous times, you've all heard the phrase, the 10 plagues of Egypt. First, there was the hail that took the fruit off the trees. Then the hail continued and took the leaves off the trees. Then the iron oxide dust in the tail of Planet X poisoned the Nile River. Then it stripped the grain off the stalks out in the fields, and pretty soon there was nothing to eat or drink. So you can listen to all the story about why the Hebrews left Egypt, but probably most of us would leave without, no matter what we were doing, if there was nothing to eat or drink, because after all, that's the desert. So these are things, and then you have Passover, where the selfish Anunnaki god Jehovah told the Jews there's going to be a methane release tonight, close your doors. And normally with the Hebrews and the Egyptians, the firstborn son slept in a bed by the door, and everyone else slept upstairs. Well, methane's heavier than air. If it comes in the door and you're asleep on the first floor near the door, you are going to suffer. So that's the kind of things that happen. So what this is that the sun is channeled through the tornado of the white circle, the moon swirl, and now it's shining down on the earth, and it was caught on video. You've got to go to the chat and look up the link for this. This is incredible. And then you go to the webcam and you look at the replay of the webcams, and you'll see that also that those are the moon swirls. So that means that the tail of Planet X is coming closer to Earth, close enough for this thing that's that's, I don't know, 10 million miles away in the sky is actually acting like a fiber optic cable and channeling sunlight through the vortex in the tail of Planet X and creating a bright spot on
Or
Earth.
people could think of it as the way a magnifying glass takes ambient sunlight and concentrates it.
Right.
It's the exact same sort of effect, just from a distance.
And see, during the day, it wouldn't be bright enough to see with the sunlight. But at sunrise, as you can see from watching the Campeche webcam, one of the strands of the tail of Planet X is often high enough that it's almost directly overhead. So here we have, before the sun had completely come over the horizon and made everything bright, there's this white circle crossing the Mississippi River, then the Mississippi River Bridge, and then going back into the river, and it disappears. And the people discuss it over and over and over again, and they can't figure out what it is. Well, Nancy took that as a question, and the Zeta said, yes, that's the light being channeled down one of the moon swirls. And Nancy and I agreed that has never been reported anywhere by anyone, and this is the first instance of it. And let me tell you one thing. I said to Nancy, this means Planet X is coming closer because the tail is coming closer. And she goes, you're right. So there you go. That is the breaking news. This is proof that this is about to happen. And if you think you can just sit there and go on with your life and everything's going to be just hunky-dory, if the Bilderberg Group is planning that there's not going to be any money and they're going to offer you food to keep working in the factories, and you have tar seeps that nobody can identify in the West Coast, you've got a huge quake volcano in Chile, where South America is going to develop a huge crack east to the Atlantic. You've got 4 more huge quakes offshore of Japan this week, in addition to the big one they had last week. So stuff is happening. And if you think that you can just continue as before and you don't need to make any plans, you don't need to discuss this with your family. Now, July 4th is coming up. That's our national holiday. You're going to find out right away there are some people who just are not going to understand it and they're not going to want to discuss it, and that's that. But you might convince somebody, and every one you convince is somebody that you save. So don't you think so, Swami?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why there are, you know, it's interesting because this Swami tunes into a wide variety of alternative media just to monitor and see what's being talked about, and also, you know, participating in a number of different shows and things. And a great deal of non-related events all point in a direction that leads directly to the events we are discussing. But most people do not connect the dots. They focus on the particular scenario, whether it be an economic collapse, a rush across the border, military action, chemtrails, geoengineering, HARP, mind control, you know, all these various scenarios and aspects and theories and whatever, to the exclusion of all else, without connecting all the dots and going, wow, this is all pointing in the same direction.
Right. And you know, people really should listen to as many of my shows as you can, because I told you gravity pushes, it does not pull. So when Planet X came around the sun going clockwise, and the Earth, Venus, and the dark twin of Earth are trying to go counterclockwise, and all 4 of them came to a stop, that's what's going on. And Planet X is trying to go by the Earth. And all of a sudden, it's going to, in one big darting motion, it's going to go by. And when it goes by, the North Pole of Planet X is going to be grabbing the mid-Atlantic ridge and sliding the crust right over the core of the Earth with its North Pole pointing up. Nothing changes the North Pole pointing up, and nothing changes the core of Earth from spinning. But it's going to grab the crust, and it's going to slide it over the North Pole until it lets go when Recife, Brazil, the eastern tip of Brazil, is the new North Pole. So that's what we're about to happen. Then we're going to have 600-foot tidal surges. Then they're going to subside, and there'll be wreckage inland for miles. And then all the ice in the world will be in the wrong place and start melting, and the oceans will rise 1 foot a day. There's 2 tides a day. That's 6 inches per tide because of melting ice. There'll be a new continent rising in the Atlantic between South America and Africa, and that will displace a huge amount of water, and the final sea level will be 700 feet above present. And for the UK and Florida, add another 150 feet for subsidence of the geographic areas. And so you have 850 feet is the final sea level above present in England, or the whole UK, and in Florida. So the only 2 places in the world are going to pop up at pole shift, and that is New England, especially Maine, 500 feet, and New Zealand, 500 feet. And Australia, the western edge is going to tilt under the ocean, and the eastern edge is going to become a high plateau overlooking the ocean. So I'm not going to name all of it, but you get the idea. You better damn well make some plans, because my wife had a vision that the first tidal surges are pushing ice ahead of them. And the Zetas have said pole shift will occur in one of these 3 times, April, August, or December. Well, August, there's no ice. December, it's just starting to form. And April, there's a lot of ice, and it's just beginning to break up. So based on my wife's vision, what would you think the time of the year is? And it could be next April. So that isn't even a year from now. What is that, 10 months, 9 months you've got? So, I just can't. We're going to do some talking. Conrad, in addition to calling in and talking about Ceres, he wants to discuss what he's done to prepare for pole shift. He was living on the ocean in Hawaii, and he moved to North Dakota, and I've asked him to come on too. So he's going to tell us how he and his father-in-law are planning to survive in North Dakota. Now, Swami's changed some of his plans, and Janet and I are on a mountaintop, heating with wood, living without plumbing, and we're 2 miles from the ocean now, and we're going to be about 1,000 feet. This is going to be an island afterwards, and we're looking forward to that, actually. So
yeah, we're getting ready to beat feet to the west to the northern Arizona, New Mexico border area.
Now, see, this is the kind of thing that the listeners should be doing. They should be saying, hey, this is really serious. I do have a 401k now. I do have a savings account. I do have a job, a car, a house, and stuff, and a family. I'm going to move them all to a place of safety. I'm going to look on Zeta Talk, which lists all the areas of the world and what part of them is safe and what part is not safe, and make plans. So that's what should happen. I mean, the fact that that all these earthquakes and things. Now, I already discussed how Project Jade Helm is putting special forces troops in 11 states to get ready for the New Madrid fault to go off this summer and the San Andreas fault. So pretty soon, half the country isn't even going to be able to move anywhere unless you know how to swim across a river. And it's funny, I lived in a fishing village for years. Most of the men there did not know how to swim. And I had a guy, I was on his boat, and I was bouncing around the foredeck, and he goes, what if you fall off? And we were dragging for mussels. And I said, well, I hope you'll pull me back on the boat. And I said, but if not, I'm just going to swim for the shore, which right then was only about 100 yards away. And he goes, well, not me. He goes, I don't know how to swim. I'm going to grab a mussel box and just go to the bottom. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm going to have to save you, too. So did somebody call in? Is we waiting for?
Yes. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your flow there. Area code 630. Are you with us?
Yes, and I just have one question. What is the biggest, most important, most definitive, most convincing, most anything you can think of that it's coming right now? And besides, I don't know, methane or
what's your name, by the way? I'm glad to have you on the show.
Mike.
Mike, well, I'm Gordon, and this is Swami, and we're glad to have you here. But I would have to say the photographs. I mean, the fact that anyone can go out with a digital picture and take a picture of the sun and look at the picture and go, hey, that's not normal. And the fact you can go to see these webcam from Italy that's showing Planet X just where it's supposed to be. Now, remember, this is from the northern hemisphere. It's at the 3 to 5 o'clock position, let's say 4 o'clock. When you are in the southern hemisphere, you're upside down. You're lucky you didn't fall off into space. So it'll be at the, the 10 o'clock position is where, if you're in the southern hemisphere. But in the northern hemisphere, it's at the 4 o'clock position. And you should go to zetatalk.com and look at the pictures from NASA when it came around the sun in 2003. You should look at the pictures that are being taken. They have a blog on poleshift.ning.com where it says, post your Planet X pictures here. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people taking pictures every day around the world and showing Planet X. Another thing is, people don't understand that there's a dark twin of Earth the same size as Earth. So Venus, the Earth, and the dark twin are all the same size. The dark twin has no atmosphere. It's a black cinder. It reflects light, sometimes gold or blue. But if you go to the German Antarctic website and they play back their every 10 minutes they take a picture of the sky. They're of course facing the north. You're not really sure when you look at it what direction, because there's all ice, and then there's the German Antarctic station on stilts. But you see the sun rise and set, you see the moon rise and set, and then you see something the same size as the full moon rise and set. Nobody's saying, oh, this is the dark twin of Earth. It's caught up with the Earth in its orbit and it's bobbing behind it. But you can go there and look at those pictures. You know, almost every day you get the sun rising and setting, the moon is not if it's the new moon, of course, but especially if it's the full moon, you get the moon rising and setting, and then you get this featureless sphere the same size as the full moon rising and setting right there in front of your eyes. What in the hell do people think this stuff is?
At the webcam from Italy, the Giglio Campisi, right as the sun is setting, a dark something shows up. I mean, just clear as day, black as night, right in the middle of the sun. And it's just a black spot, and it's there it's just you just go, what is that?
Well, Planet X is not in the middle of the sun's disk. So if you see a black spot on the sun's disk, that's actually your camera doing that. But you know, when people say, is this a lens flare, you will see the elements of the lens. You'll see several, like if there's 3 elements to your lens, you'll see 3 different circles, and those are lens flares. But if you want to absolutely show your family and friends, put your digital camera on video, go outside and point it at the sun, start filming, and then turn the camera around so the lens is always pointed at the sun. And a lens flare will move with the camera turning. But if it's not a lens flare, let's say it's really the tail of Planet X, it's really moon swirls, and sometimes you can see the disk of Planet X, which looks like a faint sort of bluish reddish purple color off to the right of the sun. As you turn the camera and then you play the video back, you see the lens flare would move with the lens, but the actual things that are in the sky, like let's say you went out and you took a picture of a tree, a video of a tree, and you turned the camera in your hand, so the lens was always pointed at the tree, but you were turning it around in a 360-degree circle, perpendicular to the tree, so you get the picture. Then when you play it back, you see that that's still the tree. The tree's really there. Even though it's upside down, you can see that that's the tree. Well, the same is true of Planet X and the tail of Planet X, the moon swirls, and the whole deal. And you know, I've been taking pictures of 2 suns since 2006. So I've got some great pictures, and I've submitted them to poleshift.ning.com and Nancy Leader and Zeta Talk, and they've put them on their website. They've got photographs from hundreds, if not thousands, of people around the world, and the only difference you'll see is that some people live south of the equator, so it's at the 10 o'clock position for them. But there it is.
There was a spectacular one from Argentina that showed the wing type to the side, the double strand helix
Looks
twisting
like
behind Planet X, but it looks winged, and by seeing that, which will be soon enough clearly visible to everyone, then you can understand the actual meaning of the secret society's imagery of the winged discs, because
Right,
this is what it's representing.
I mean, there's a gate of the sun at Puma Punku, Bolivia, where there's a winged globe carved on this gate, 18,000 years old. I mean, this happens every 3,657 years, and now it's back. If you want to read a good description, there was there's a drawing of her, and I gotta say that she's particularly ugly, but she got married and she was happy. She had kids. Her name is Mother Shipton, and 500 years ago in Australia, she wrote a prophecy of the future. And guess what? She mentions aircraft, submarines, jet fighters, but she also mentions Planet X and mountains falling into the sea, tidal waves, the terrible thing crossing the sky, and in fact, I might ask Swami to look up Mother Shipton's prophecies, print it out and underline a few sections and read them, because you could all benefit from seeing what this poor uneducated woman in Australia, Mother Shipton, 500 years ago. Now, this is not Nostradamus. This is the only thing she ever wrote as a prophecy, and there it is. I mean, and it's so interesting. It's
been stated that she would be burned at the stake before any of this came to pass, and she was.
Yeah, well, see, there's always a danger of being a prophet in your own country. Much better to be a prophet in someone else's country.
Right.
But does that convince you at all, Mike?
Oh yeah. What about the ancient gods that were involved with Sumer and stuff like that? Can we look forward to that? Or
No,
also?
they're banned. They were banned from Earth before Jesus came, a little bit more than 2,000 years ago, and what happened was they were not handed an eviction notice by the Council of Worlds. Every single thing they tried to do, something would go wrong with it, and then finally they got the message, gee, maybe somebody doesn't want us here, and they had only one place that they could go, which was Mars, which they had ruined by draining all the water into the inner planet and changing the atmosphere to mine gold. And when they did that, then that's when they came to Earth. So all those pyramids and all those buildings on Mars, they're real artifacts, and they were built by them. And so now they went back to Mars, but now there was hardly any atmosphere. So they picked the deepest place on the planet Mars, which on Earth, the deepest place that's not underwater is around the Dead Sea. There's a place that's 200 feet below sea level. But on Mars, it's the Hale Crater, and that's 12,000 feet below sea level. So if there's any oxygen and moisture at all on the surface of Mars, it's in the Hale Crater. Well, guess what? That's where we sent the Curiosity rover, and it's just roving around on the bottom of Hale Crater. And guess what it shows? Wooden beams, mice, snakes, birds, Anunnaki dolls, drills with drill holes, skeletons of sheep and goats. They really weren't that bright. They could have... See, the only thing that's growing on Mars now is lichen. So if they had brought elk, the elk would have licked the lichen. That's what elk do. They lick lichen. That's how they live. They could have had elk that would be still running around, herds of elk at the bottom of Hale Crater. But isn't it interesting how NASA just randomly happened to select the one place where the Anunnaki went when they were banned? And then their food ran out because they had goats and sheep, which need growing things that could not grow. And goats and sheep left their skeletons everywhere. Anunnaki skeletons are everywhere. There are even Anunnaki jewelry where they dropped it in the desert there at the bottom of Hale Crater, 12,000 feet below sea level. And the Curiosity rover just takes pictures of this stuff. There's communications towers, there's domed buildings, all this stuff. And it's like NASA's like, yeah, we're just photographing the natural features of the region. But you can go to Mars anomalies. There are many sites that deal with Mars anomalies, and you can look at these pictures from the Curiosity rover. There are YouTube videos about these pictures. Incredible. So they're not coming back. They're on Planet X right now, 30 million miles from Earth, and we're not allowed to send satellites there and talk to them. They're not allowed to come here and talk to us. They are banned because they were so selfish and the cruelty was just immense. They're the ones who said that to worship God, you had to kill something. So you see what the Mayans and the Aztecs did with their incredible bloodletting. And it's things like that got them banned, and they're not allowed back because we're about to graduate a third of the Earth to the fourth dimension where this will be an unselfish planet. So there's no space or place for bringing more unselfish people here on Earth, which is why I say there's over 1,000 unselfish extraterrestrial races here, totaling 7 billion people, and they're on the fourth dimension waiting for the people who survive pole shift to graduate to the fourth dimension. That could take up to 100 years after pole shift. So first you have the apocalypse, then you have the graduation. And when you line up 10 people who you know in the same room, 9 of them are going to be dead within a couple of years. And 60% will die in tidal waves. 10% will die from shock, just pure shock. 10% will die from depression and other mental illnesses, and 10% will die from starvation and crime.
Kindly allow this Swami to read some of Mother Shipton's final prophecy.
You found it? Great.
Yeah. For 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain to shore.
Here you go.
And flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din that mankind cowers in muddy fen and snarls about his fellow men. He bares his teeth and fights and kills, and secrets food in secret hills. And ugly in his fear, he lies to kill marauders, thieves, and spies. Man flees in terror from the floods, and kills and rapes and lies in blood. And spilling blood by mankind's hand will stain and bitter many lands. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on to apply himself. Too late, for mankind has earned deserved fate. His masked smile, his false grandeur will serve the gods at their anger stir, and they will send the dragon back to light the sky. His tail will crack upon the earth and rend the earth, and man shall flee, king, lord, and serf. But slowly they are rooted out to seek diminishing waterspout, and men will die of thirst before the oceans rise to mount the shore, and lands will crack and rend anew. Do you think it strange? It will come true. And in some far-off, distant land, some men, oh such a tiny band, will have to leave their solid mount and span the earth, those few to count. Who survives this and then begin the human race again, but not on land already there, but on ocean beds, stark, dry, and bare. Not every soul on earth will die as the dragon's tail goes sweeping by. Not every land on earth will sink, But these will wallow in stench and stink of rotting bodies, of beast and man, of vegetation crisped on land. But the land rises from the sea, will be dry and clean and soft and free of mankind's dirt, and therefore be the source of man's new dynasty. And those that live will ever fear the dragon's tail for many years. But time erases memory. You think it's strange, but it will be. And before the race is built anew, a silver serpent comes to view, and spew out men of like unknown to mingle with the earth, now grown cold from its heat. And these men can enlighten the minds of future man, to intermingle and show them how to live and love, and thus endow the children with the second sight, a natural thing, so they might grow graceful, humble, and when they do, the golden age will start anew. The dragon's tail is but a sign for mankind's fall and man's decline. And before this prophecy is done, I shall be burned at the stake at one. My body singed, my soul set free. You think I utter blasphemy? You're wrong. These things have come to me. This prophecy will come to be.
Wow. Well, thank you. You did a great job reading that. See, now look, how compelling is that? It mentions all of it. Flying saucers, extraterrestrials, the new race, children being born who are totally telepathic and psychic, the new world, the meek inheriting the earth. I mean, that woman didn't leave anything out, did she? Not a thing.
And it lines up with Revelations, with
yep.
with
and the Colburn Bible, which
of the Colburn, of Hindu philosophy, of Taoist, of Mesoamerican, of Native. I mean, everything points towards this in varying degrees and words and phrasing, but it's all pointing in this direction.
Exactly, and even the Hopi, that very few men will take the right path, and they'll go on, and the rest will fall off a cliff and die a horrible death. And there's an illustration of that. Mm-hmm. And their prophecy, when the blue Kachina and the red Kachina are both seen at the sky at the same time, that's when the new age begins. So they're not talking so much about the destruction of the old age. They're talking about welcoming in the new age. And the blue Kachina is the dark twin of Earth, and the red Kachina is Planet X.
Also called Nibiru, Nemesis, right. Herculobus, a number of names in different traditions.
Of crossing, winged globe,
destroyer, yeah.
So when the blue Kachina and the red Kachina are seen in the sky at the same time, well, when Planet X starts to move, Venus and the dark twin of Earth will move past Planet X in the sky. You will see the blue Kachina because it reflects blue. It's actually a huge volcanic cinder the size of Earth, loaded with gold, which the Anunnaki are mining right now with robots, but which they're allowed to do as long as they don't come near Earth. And they're also mining with robots the moon of Mars, Phobos, and because the whole reason why that they created us was to mine gold for them. So. But they will be seen in the sky at the same time, and all these prophecies are talking about the same thing: men from space, the new race, the new age, peace and love and harmony, and all the things that should be. That's what's coming to Earth, and this is the last pole shift because the Earth is about to become a fourth-dimensional planet. When Planet X comes back through the solar system, because they're going to stay on the third dimension, being selfish and not learning anything yet, they're going to come through, and it's going to be 3,657 years from now, and they're going to go, what happened to Earth? What happened to all the people? Where did they go? And they're not going to know that we're on the fourth dimension. We're at a higher frequency where we are invisible to them. So, I mean, I don't think you could live at a more exciting time. But to sit here and think that you can just continue with what you've been doing before and you're going to get the same result, you're really a loser if you think that, right? I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, you have free will. And you can either have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, or you can put your head in the sand. And you will get the result of the effort you have expended.
Right. So, what do you think of that, Mike? Had you ever heard Mother Shipton's prophecy before?
Oh yeah. Who's that guy? He just threw a curveball. He did a movie. He created his own movie about Planet X. It's been so long, I forgot the guy's name. He quoted. He may have even quoted the one that you guys said. But I wish he would have put a date. Go ahead.
Are you talking about Gil Broussard?
No, this guy knows John Moore. I got my mind. I'll have to think about it. Who he is? Because it's been so long. But he created. Oh, you know what? He had a slideshow too. It was a lecture, like maybe 2 hours. It was long, and on a lot of this information. Too bad Mother Shipton didn't. Too bad nobody could put dates on anything. Not even Nostradamus. No.
Well, that's the thing is it comes every 3,657 years. You go back, that's 1650 BC when the Jews left Egypt. Then you go back 3,657 years before that, and you've got Noah's flood. Then you go back before that, and you've got the sinking of Atlantis. And there are no records of anything before that. And the records of the sinking of Atlantis and the date are just from people like Edgar Cayce, who said that when the survivors reached Egypt, they built the Great Pyramid and started the society in Egypt and Greece. Which, if you ask a normal scientist, where did the Greek and the Egyptian culture come from? They're like, I don't know, maybe Sumeria. But no, they didn't come from Sumeria. But anyway, no, there's a lot of people with the incomplete story. But listen, I have a lot of respect for the listeners, and I'm not making any money. I don't have a website. I'm not selling anything. I am doing this because this is really exciting. This is something I want to share with everybody. And, you can trust that if I give you some information that it's going to be really good, because it is coming from the horse's mouth, which is Zeta Talk. And Janet and I have so much contact with ETs all the time. And just when I hear something, I know whether it's true. And I've said before, if the selfish people knew when the date was, they would kill everyone they could in the week beforehand.
Right.
And they would do that because they would figure, well, once poles shift, there's not going to be any justice system. I'm never going to be caught, and I will be king of the earth. That's what they're thinking.
There are historic scribes from ancient Egypt who wrote of the time when the Exodus took place. This same situation, this pole shift occurred then. And the high were made low.
Right.
At that time, because the people were going nuts. They didn't know what was going on. They couldn't understand what's happening. This big red thing moving through the sky, and the earthquakes, volcanoes, all of this, and then society completely flipped. All order was over with, and those willing to kill and steal certainly did, and those who could not protect themselves died. And the wealthy were stripped.
And that's what we're going through right now. And these are they're known as the 10 plagues of Egypt. And I can't name all 10 in order or anything, but I can tell you right now, this white circles of light crossing the ground as the sun rises in the east is an entirely new one. And that's why this is really important. It's the first time it's ever been heard of. It's never been mentioned in prophecy, and yet here it is, and it happened this week. So we cannot be that far away from this. I mean, I've been living in this house for 15 years. I moved to Maine 30 years ago to get ready for this. So, you know, if you're sitting there thinking you've got unlimited amounts of time, no, you don't. Those days are over.
Can I mention one more thing? You know, I have a real problem like with immorality these days. Up is down, down is up. You know, just ludicrous people, twisted. You know, thinking and you know everything's chaos and falling. You know, I almost think that this might be part of it also because you know before the last calamity. But I'm not sure. I think people are going mad, essentially. I think everybody losing their minds.
Well, it's true. I mean, I'll just give you an example. This week in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which if you don't know that's one of the worst ghettos in America, Father Panic Village. If you call the police and say, I'm in Father Panic Village, they won't even answer the call. The utility companies won't be there. It's like beyond the beyond. It's like if you were to go near it and see it, it would scare you. And somewhere near there this week, a whole bunch of people were sitting out on the stoop of their townhouse, catching the night air, and some guy walked up and shot 8 people on the stoop. Then he walked into the house and found a woman upstairs taking a bath and shot her. Luckily, only one person died, and you figure with 8 living witnesses, they should be able to find the person that did that. But there's no sign of that yet. But that's the kind of thing that's going on. This is the last battle between good and evil because good wins, and that's it. There's no more third-dimensional battles. There's no more open freedom for selfish people on planet Earth. Every selfish person, every selfish extraterrestrial has been told you have 2 choices. Turn to light and love, which, you know, before the door slams shut, you have time. Turn to light and love or leave the earth. And of course, most of them, being selfish, are planning, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm still going to mess with the unselfish people. Well, great plan. I got to say, guess what's going to happen to those people? You're right.
They're going to eat one another.
Yeah, well.
You know, that's their nature. So those of us who pull together in community, in friendship, using truth, love, and action to bring about our solutions will get help if necessary. Not a problem. That's what the support is for. Whether it comes from internally intuitive understandings or external help from higher dimensional beings or off-world beings, whatever, the help is available. And it doesn't matter which entrance you take onto the center path or the superhighway of spirituality or whatever you understand best. Follow your heart. Do what inspires you and assist others before looking after yourself, and all will be taken care of.
And that's what I say. You've got to organize all your intentions and your behavior around being kind to others, being unselfish. So that's your choice. And these are the last days to make that choice. And you will live with this choice for a long time. Those who choose selfishness are going to be going to planets where everyone is more selfish than they are. So you could call those prison planets because they're not going to be leaving it anytime soon. And all the people that are neither unselfish or selfish, they're a little bit more selfish than unselfish, but they're not completely selfish. Those people are being given a gift, and they will be reborn as sea creatures with all the same people they've been dealing with and all the same unresolved issues, but without the ability to speak and without any tools or possessions. And the hope is, and this has been a decision made by the Council of Worlds, by spirit guides of every kind, angels, all contributed to this. This is a gift to be born as a sea creature on a watery planet where you can't speak and you own no tools or possessions. So most of those people will be octopuses. A few of the more advanced ones and the nicer ones will be probably whales or dolphins. But most people are going to be sea creatures, and they're never going to remember Earth or anything that went on here. But should they be able to make a conscious decision to live an unselfish life, which is an octopus. What is that? What do you do to be unselfish? Well, I guess you protect the other octopi. So Mike left us. So goodbye, Mike. Thank you. And
yeah, he's probably reeling right now.
Yeah.
A lot of folks do. I mean, and that's very normal. You know, that's just how it is.
Right. And you know, these are the last days. These are the days when all the secrets are coming out. Now, I talked about FIFA at one point, and the president says he will be stepping down, but he's still going to be in power in terms of the International Soccer Association. But the next 14 people below him were arrested, and the FBI is grilling them all to see if anybody's going to turn on the president. But how could he be president with $400 million a year in income, and the next 14 people below him have taken $150 million in gifts and graft?
Right.
You know, so don't be surprised when these secrets come out. The Council of Worlds has declared war on all the wealthy people who would block the announcement. So all I have to say is, Obama, get with it. We're waiting. We want this to be announced, and make it a good announcement, too.
Well,
and
one of the things that's naturally occurring that folks can look into if they want, the Schumann resonance, which is the
of Earth.
Vibratory rate of the planet, has over doubled recently. Right. It's up to over 16. It was 7 point something for a long, long time. And this is going to cause a polarization of those of us on the planet to one end or the other of the spectrum, either predatory or service.
That's right.
And it's just going to assist the sorting out and will assist those who are doubtful and confused. It will just assist them to move in the way most proper for them.
Well, the thing is, you see, is that when we go to a higher frequency, selfish people can't function at that frequency. So increasingly, they fail at everything they're trying to do. And the kind and unselfish, empathetic people who follow the golden rule are going to increasingly succeed at everything they do. And there's this separation going on right in front of your eyes. Everywhere you go, you're seeing people making choices, consciously or unconsciously, making choices and living with them. And this is it. Now, it's possible that many good people would be saved from having to go through the tribulation because, and this is mentioned in Revelations, there were 2 in the field and 1 disappeared. There were 2 in the kitchen and 1 disappeared. So not everybody's going to be taken. Why would some people disappear? Well, people call that the rapture, you know, and they play jokes like leaving some clothes on the ground, like, oh, he must have gotten raptured because there's what he was wearing 10 minutes ago. But, you know, it isn't a joke. And you know, the ETs have contacted everyone on Earth and told them what's coming. Now, some people have that in their conscious mind, but most don't. And so this is going to start happening, and all of a sudden it's going to click. Oh my God, that's what they were talking about. That's the choice I should have made. But like my wife says, the bus is running. Are you going to be on it or not? So that's the point. And that's why I think it's important to discuss what your last thoughts are when you die. Does that affect it? And I was talking to Nikki to ask her to be on my show.
Oh, we'll get her to address that next week.
I hope with Nikki Thetsy. So thank you, everyone. This has been a memorable show, and you did a great reading of Mother Shipton.
Thank you.
You've got to start putting descriptions in the YouTube video of what goes on. Thanks. See you next week.